What if I told you that your menstrual cycle is one of the most important vital signs for your health, just as important as your blood pressure, your pulse, or your body temperature? Most of us are never told that. In fact, we're never told that it's an important indicator of our health at all. Instead, we're taught to grit our teeth through pain, we're taught to medicate away any heavy bleeding, and we're taught to take a pill to silence the cycle completely. I used to engage with my cycle in the same way, but it's my body that forced me to see things differently. So I started my period when it was a week after I turned 14 actually. I remember that because all of my other friends in my friend group had already started theirs, and I was like, oh my God, when's mine coming? When's it going to come? So when it did finally come, I was really excited, then immediately just like kind of disappointed. It was kind of anticlimactic. It kind of hit me that this was going to be my life for the next few decades. And maybe I shouldn't have wished for it to come any sooner. At this age, I also had one friend in particular who would say that she had really painful periods. She would get out of PE because she would complain about the pain. She would take painkillers in school and sometimes come out of lessons. And to be honest, in my hearts of hearts, I felt like she was exaggerating a little bit because maybe she didn't like PE or she got to get out of lessons that she didn't particularly like. I feel bad about underestimating her pain to this day because 2 years later, at the age of 16, I began to experience really heavy, painful periods myself. Now, looking back, I had just moved back to the UK after living in quite a warm climate for the 2 years before. I slipped into a kind of depression because I entered my A levels, and that was a difficult time for me. So now that I'm aware of the way that emotions can play out with physical manifestations in the body, I think that could have been somewhat of a contributing factor, but my periods just became really heavy, really painful, and kind of really difficult for me to manage in that time when I was finding everything else in my life kind of hard to manage as well. My periods were so painful that I would take multiple paracetamols and ibuprofens multiple times a day. I would take well over the recommended doses because I thought that would help with the pain quicker and for longer. I would wear a Super Plus tampon, and I would have to wear a pad as well because I knew that I would bleed through the tampon within an hour. My periods were also extremely regular at this time, and they have been my whole life, to be honest. But that isn't necessarily a good thing when you know that you're going to have to suffer through a lot of pain predictably for a week every single month like clockwork. Can you imagine being sat in class like that, thinking, oh my gosh, am I leaking now? Feeling like a gush of blood, being in extreme pain, or having taken a lot of painkillers, as well as dealing with the normal drama of just being a teenager and having to deal with exams and the pressure of a sixth form where everybody wants to know what you want to do with your future, and you're kind of pretending to know what you want to do, but it's really quite a confusing time. Anyway, so I went to the doctor. They prescribed me mefenamic acid and tranexamic acid. They were really helpful with my symptoms, but I was kind of concerned about the long-term side effects of taking them every single month. Years later, I went to another doctor to tell her about my concerns about taking tranexamic and mefenamic acid for such a long time, and she was like, yep, they can lead to long-term liver damage. Here's a pill instead. So I took that, and it was an almost instant change. It elevated my mood, it changed my body in ways that I liked, but I also felt a sense of disquiet about that. I had this intuition that I shouldn't be my natural rhythm completely. At this point, it had been a few years of me living with these heavy periods, and I had noticed that when I gained some weight, the periods would get heavier. When I lost some weight, the periods would get less heavy. I was on a vegan diet for a period of about a year, and I noticed that the periods became very light, but also lighter in color during that time. So I had some sense of connection between what was going on in my environment and what was going on with my periods. I didn't want to lose that connection by kind of chemically masking my natural cycle. And that's the message that I want to convey here now, that your cycle, even though it may have really irritating and inconvenient symptoms, it's not a burden. It is actually your body's way of speaking to you. When I say a healthy menstrual cycle, I don't just mean whether you can get pregnant or not. I'm talking about seeing your cycle as a monthly report card on your overall well-being. Imagine it as the output of your hormones, your stress levels, your environment, as I mentioned before, your nutrition, and how all of those are interacting in your body. When it's balanced, your cycle is a rhythm that can guide your energy and your overall health. And when it's out of balance, it's your body's way of saying, hi, something needs attention here. I will often describe the cycle through the lens of the 4 seasons because it's something that's intuitive and also something that's a metaphor that's used within the world of women who are talking about their reproductive health. So we'll start with the menstrual phase. That is the winter of your cycle. Here you should be bleeding for between 3 and 7 days, and ideally your bleeding should start off with fresh bright red blood and should continue with a steady flow that tapers off towards the end, with only mild cramps and very rare and small clots if there are any. This is likened to winter because it is a time of withdrawal, a time of introspection, a time of turning inwards generally. Next comes the follicular phase, which is spring. After the bleeding ends, then energy steadily begins to rise again. Ideas start to sprout and creativity reawakens. You'll find that your cervical mucus becomes clearer as your body prepares towards ovulation. Ovulation is the summer. This is a phase of fullness, of radiance, of connection, of feeling sociable. You might notice that your cervical fluid is sticky, that it's a similar color to egg white, and some women experience small twinges of pain on one side of the lower abdomen. This is when your body is at peak vitality and you might find yourself being most productive. Then we have the luteal phase, which is the autumn. This is when energy starts to turn inward again. Progesterone should be rising to support sleep and mood, and ideally any symptoms of PMS should be mild. This is a natural time of sensitivity, and like autumn, it's a season of discernment where we are able to let go of things that we don't need to take forward. Obviously, there's going to be variation between what I've just described and your cycle as an individual. There's going to be variations between different women, and there's going to be variations between different cycles in the same woman. A degree of variation is normal, but I'm about to let you know about some things that definitely shouldn't be brushed off. So if your period is shorter than 24 days or longer than 35 days, especially if this happens regularly, or if you're experiencing both sides of this extreme, if you're bleeding so heavily that you leak through protection within an hour like I used to, if you have cramps that leave you doubled over or having to lie down and unable to do the things that you normally would be able to do, if you're passing large clots, so for my UK people, talking about clots larger than a 10p coin regularly, or if you're regularly experiencing bleeding where the blood is dark red and stagnant, and if you have mood swings that derail your life and disrupt your personal relationships. These things are not quirks and individual differences. These are signals that something is seriously off and deserves support. This is where herbs can come in and be really powerful allies. And I've experienced incredible changes myself, and so have some of the women that I've worked with. Number one, Angelica sinensis. In English, we call this Chinese Angelica. In TCM, they call it Dongquai. This is a herb that's famous for moving stagnation in the blood, the kind that causes really painful and really long periods. Secondly, Viburnum opulus, or cramp bark, really aptly named, helps to relax uterine spasms, especially the kind that radiate into the thighs or further up the body. Raspberry leaf is a really great one because you can find this in a lot of health shops and some supermarkets, but that's one that helps to tone the uterus and helps staunch a really heavy flow. Ginger is one that I love because, again, you can find it everywhere and you can just boil up some ginger tea in your kitchen. Ginger helps to warm, it helps to improve circulation broadly, and it helps to take the edge off those kind of really sharp, cold, stabbing cramps. One of my favorite teas to have when I'm experiencing period cramps is one of lamium, which is dead nettle, either the purple or the white one, and chamomile. Making a tea of these two plants really helps me because it forces me to pause, prepare it, drink it slowly because it's hot, and I kind of experience this sense of the tea entering my body and helping to untangle the knot of kind of mental tension that I experience along with period pains, while also helping with the physical pain. And then those knots kind of disintegrate and come out together because obviously you also have to go to the toilet after drinking a good amount of tea. That's something that I really love. And all of these are not just remedies, they are ways of practicing listening to and responding to your body's needs. So if your period feels unbearable, please know that you're not alone. I've been that girl who bled through my jeans while I was waitressing. I felt kind of palmed off and dismissed by doctors. And I've also experienced the relief of finding plants and practices that helped bring my body back into balance for the long term. Your menstrual cycle isn't an enemy to fight against. It can function as a rhythm, a mirror, a helpful guide, and for that to be able to happen, it needs to be honored, and you deserve that. If it's out of balance, there are ways to support it, and if this resonates with you, and if you want to explore personalized strategies for your own menstrual health, you'll find a link to work with me for free in the description below. I also have a couple of free PDFs on herbal medicine in the description below. And if this video has been helpful at all, please like and subscribe because I will be sharing more. Please also share the video. I'm really passionate about women's reproductive health and the ways that herbal medicine can help support our overall balance and vitality.